When we think of historical astronomy, we picture massive, centralized state institutions, giant white domes perched on a hill, peering into the deep. But Queensland's history doesn't look like that. In 1915, they tried to build a grand state observatory at Bartley's Hill. The government laid the concrete foundations, ran out of money, and walked away. People kept looking up anyway. Instead of a single monument, locals built a scrappy, decentralized network. They repurposed old windmills. They converted water tanks. They set up heavy brass lenses in their own backyards. Because Queensland lacked one central hub, its scientific history fell into the shadows. To map it today, historians have to use a completely different method. If you want to find a lost piece of history, the instinct is to look for a building. But temporary structures made of wood and iron get demolished, subdivided, and forgotten. The researchers at the Celestial Archives use a different rule. Buildings are fixed to land. Telescopes are not. To uncover this invisible network, you have to track the hardware. These antique brass and glass instruments were the multi-million-dollar tech of their day, and they were constantly changing hands. This flowchart maps the journeys of important telescopes. Tracing a single lens shows a dizzying web of public and private science. Notice the far right edge. Many of these highly valuable instruments simply vanished into thin air. They are active historical cold cases. Tracing the exact path of these instruments maps a grassroots scientific heritage that official government records completely missed. Take Captain Henry O'Reilly. In 1871, he built a private iron dome in his yard in Brisbane. A decade later, the government needed a way to keep precise public time. Instead of building their own facility from scratch, they bought O'Reilly's private dome, took it apart, and moved it across town. Inside that dome was a 4.5-inch Ross refractor, a specialized telescope meant for precise tracking. The Ross spent decades in government service before eventually being passed on to an eccentric weather forecaster named Inigo Jones, who used it at his rural observatory. Jones died in 1954. After that, the Ross completely drops out of the public record. No one knows where it is. The journey of the Ross shows exactly how early state functions worked here. They scavenged and adopted private resources, blurring the line between an amateur hobby and official government science. In 1882, a major British expedition shipped a mountain of equipment to a temporary camp in Jimbour to observe the transit of Venus, a rare alignment of the planets. After years of intense global planning and travel, thick clouds rolled over the camp on the day of the transit and completely ruined the observation. But instead of packing up their prized equipment and shipping it all back to Britain in defeat, they sold 2 pristine 6-inch Cooke refractors to local buyers. This chart shows what happened. Cooke A went to Townsville. At an 1897 auction, the trail dies. Cooke B went to Mackay. By 1900, its trail goes cold, with rumors it went to England. Because of a localized weather failure, world-class lenses were scattered directly into the hands of citizens, jump-starting an entire generation of local amateur astronomy. Then there is the Grubb 6-inch telescope, imported in 1884. Its chain of custody is frantic. It goes from a private owner to an astronomical society to St. Leo's Observatory in 1919. We know that building didn't survive because an aerial photograph taken over Brisbane in 1951 confirms the St. Leo's dome was simply gone. A single 1952 note claims the Grubb was moved to Nudgee College, but no modern trace of it exists there today. Even heavily documented, highly prized scientific hardware can vanish without a trace if a state lacks a centralized system to preserve it. Look at this tracking chart one last time. Every unresolved endpoint marks a physical break in a scientific chain that once spanned the state. These records represent a network of people who built Queensland's scientific foundations by hand, passing knowledge and equipment from person to person. This history is incredibly fragile. Sometimes a single sentence in an 1867 cyclone report or a lone concrete pillar standing in a field is the only proof a site ever existed. The Celestial Archives asks us to look up, look back, and preserve the evidence. Right now, a piece of this missing multi-million-dollar hardware might be sitting unrecognized in a local attic. Queensland's astronomical history survives through the individuals who kept these lenses moving, long after the dream of a grand state observatory had faded.